Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Bobby Cleveland here, Executive Director of Oklahoma Correctional Professionals, along with State Representative J.J. Humphrey. And J.J. is running for, what are you running for, J.J.?
Lieutenant Governor, Bob. I'm all over.
Lieutenant Governor.
Yeah.
And you're getting all your stuff ready to roll out then.
Yeah, but we can't, Bob, we can't talk about any of that. I want to be, because I'm sitting at the Capitol building and it's
Oh, I'm sorry.
bad juju. Bad
Okay.
juju for me to be discussing that at the Capitol
I
building.
didn't
But,
realize
but,
that.
but it is true. It is true.
But I guess I didn't see the stuff in the back. I paying attention to that.
I am at my office at the Capitol building today getting some work done. So you may be hearing that phone every once in a while. We're going to ignore that.
Well, JJ, what I'm hearing now is that DOC has gone in and they're robbing the inmates for the money that they've earned, which is not a lot of money, but when you don't have any money, any little bit helps, because a lot of those inmates don't have anybody to send them money. But have you heard anything about this at all?
Oh, absolutely. I've gotten numerous calls on gang pay. That's what we're talking about, is the gang pay, which is the small amount that many inmates get paid. They're monthly. And again, like I say, if you have an inmate that doesn't have family, that doesn't have support, and that's all they got, that's not a whole lot to live on. I mean, they don't give them, I think it's something like $13 or, somewhere like that. It may have been increased since I've been there. But anyways, Bob, I've been getting called that they're cutting that. Now, my question is, who has the authority to do that? Can DOC just say, well, we're broken, so we're just cutting that money? Or,
well, wait a minute. They earn that money. They're not just giving to them. That's money they earn. They work for that money.
True. Yes. Yeah. They all are supposed to have jobs. Now, at least when I was in there, we had everybody assigned to a job, and according to what job you got, you may have got a little more gang pay than other positions, and so
they don't have a right to do that. I mean, this is a serious situation they're doing here.
Well, Bob, I mean, again, that's the question. Who does have the right to set that? That's what we need to find out, and that's what we need to know. I mean, is that set by board? Can the director just willy-nilly come in and say, well, we've overspent our budget, so we're just going to screw all these inmates and take away their money? I mean, can he do that? Is that something that has to come from, the legislators? I don't ever remember taking a vote on it as a legislator, so I don't think it comes from the legislative. But again, I mean, is it a board? I would think that the board would have to approve that. But I don't know. We need to find out.
But my understanding is DOC headquarters did not even notify the prisons that they were doing this.
No, I think it came as a shock on everybody, or at least what I'm hearing. I'm mainly hearing from the inmates. Again, Harpe doesn't talk to me. He makes certain that everybody else doesn't talk to me. He's a little scared. He runs scared all the time. But the thing about it is,
this is about as low as I think you can go when you start robbing inmates with the few dollars they have to.
Oh no, they can go much lower than that, Bob. I've seen them go lower than that. But another thing, Bob, that we're not talking about is is they have a trust fund. So this is gang pay. They have a trust fund. It's my understanding that these inmates, yes, that they can put into. So I had a guy in here yesterday that brought me the proof that he had put in $1,000, that he had put in so much, and he's showing that he should have $3,000 in that in that trust fund. And they turned around and gave him $285 and said, that's it. So where'd the other 27.25 go, or 15, 27.15? Where did that go? So again, he came in and said, hey, I'm not letting up on this. I want to know where my money is. And for him, he had a really good point, was that, the court had fined him and seized a bunch of his stuff. And that $3,000 was what he was saving to get out and, have some money to start with. And here they rob him, of the money he saved, not money, not just cut his funds, but robbed him of the money, and it appears, I mean, he had paperwork that made it appear to look like, well, I want to make sure that's what he alleges, but it looked to be legit. So again, not only taking the money from the gang pay, which, Bob, when you see that, what's that tell you?
Well, here's the deal. I've told you before, and I said it before, and I'll say it again. They treat people like slaves, employees. They don't pay them the right. What we had what was that pay called? Get day pay or whatever it was. Had trouble with that, getting that done. They cheated people out of money. But when you're so dadgum low, you're stooping as low as I think you can go, JJ, is when you're taking robbing the inmates of the money they earn. This is not money they just give them just for out of the kindness of their heart. They earn that money. So how can they have inmates work for no money? I would think that would be a federal law.
I figure they are violating some laws. If I was a betting man, I would say they're probably violating some laws. No question on that.
Well, I know they're violating the PREA laws. I know that.
But Bob, here's the other thing. Why would they do that? Why would you cut the gang pay like that? I mean, right now more things are expensive. Does anybody think things are less? Does anybody think, oh, gee, we need to cut them? They're getting too much. That $13 a month, way too much. We need to cut that down to $7 or cut it down to 10 or something.
They cut it down to nothing.
Huh? Hey, here's what I'm trying to say. You got to be broke. If you're down, Bob, it's kind of like, when you was in college. When I was in college, okay, there'd be times that, man, we'd get down to where we were broke. We were partying too hard, Bob, and we'd be broke. Well, we'd start looking for the change, and we'd start looking for, just any kind of dollar we could lay our hands on, because we were broke. I mean, we were hunting everything. Now, Bob, that's what it looks like. That's what DOC looks like right now. Is a bunch of drunk college kids out there looking for the dime. Hey, somebody pull up the couch, pull up the cushions and see if there's any dimes under it. When they're looking, when they go so far as to that we're going to cut the gang pay, if you're so broke that's where you have to go and find your money, then you got problems, Bob. And again, that's what I'm going to say is there's no other reason that they would be cutting that other than unless they were broke. And here's the thing, Bob. When you were in the legislators, when did they get their budget?
I'm sorry, when what?
Got to pay attention, Bob. I'm asking you hard questions here.
Okay.
When did they get their budget? When does DOC get their budget?
I thought they got their budget in July.
Well, here we are in August, and if you're robbing gang pay in August, and you're already doing that, I mean, Bob, you know what I'm saying?
If you took $15 times $2,300, that's $34,000 a month.
Yeah, well, Bob, so there's 21,000 inmates roughly. So if you take $1 away from each inmate, that's 21,000. It's a slow boat to China if you're talking about any kind of real savings on DOC, because they got a $500 million budget. So I mean, if you take $2 away, that's 42,000. $3, it's what would that be?
Why would they do it and not even notify the prisons and notify the staff that they're doing this?
Well, Bob, they're doing everything in the dark. You mentioned PREA a while ago. Hey, we called that out. We called out that. I mean, had a big hearing, the whole 9 yards, proved every bit of it, and they just covered it up like a cat covering up crap.
Well, I'm hearing that at Allen Gamble that they rapid there, along with everything is bad at Allen Gamble.
Well, Bob, here's the deal. I mean, I received a credible report the other day. And again, these are people that stuff like this has to be reported to. And they said it was constant that people would come in and report a PREA and then somebody from the upper level staff would come in and say, oh, that didn't happen, or no, that didn't really go on, and then get them to recant, and then they never turn it in. Well, that's not, when they report a PREA, there's a process that has to be going through, and they're not doing it, and they're falsifying, and they're lying, and they're covering it up so that they don't have the real numbers, because if people saw the real numbers, I mean, it would be flabbergasted. It would, you know what I'm saying? If everybody
Well, that's a
knew
federal
how
law.
many
They have to
rapes,
do that. Well, that they don't have enough people, so they can't have to do the paperwork. Take their time away. It's just
well, Bob, if it was just a shortage of staff, I would say, okay, they're short staffed. Now they're short staffed because that's their own dang fault. They fire people, they run off people. They're short staffed because of the way they treat their staff. And Bob, you know, kind of on a side note on that, have you been hearing that Watonga, that course Civic may come back in that prison? What is that? I can't remember which one it is at Watonga that that we've got there. But anyways, I'm hearing they're going to bring that back, house federal prisoners out of it. And again, what that's going to do, especially right here in the Metroplex area, because that's not too far to drive out there. You know, they pay a little better. I think they pay, I don't know, somewhere
$27 an hour, which is $5 more than what we pay.
Yeah, so $5 an hour more, and guess what? You're going to be treated better and probably in a much safer environment. You know what I mean? That's going to give them some competition. So it's not like we're not already short-handed, but when that starts, I figure there'll be some people leave and go to work for them, and that's going to leave us really short-handed. Prisons that's going to hurt are probably Mabel Bassett, Hinton, some of those prisons right there around that area. You know, I think will be negatively affected. So I'm just like, hey, y'all got problems. You think you got problems now, Bob? I'm telling you everything that I see, and I've said this for quite some time, and they have managed to. Bob, we've had riots. They want to rename them, and they say group disruptions. Okay, fine, you name it whatever you want. But when 30 people get out there and they got 30 injuries, 2 dead, which was a hit. I mean, you know that's a hit, but it's still, you had a riot to have a hit so that those 2 people could be killed. Now, when you have that, and they cover it up. When you got a guy get his head cut off, they cover it up. You got all these rapes going on, they cover it up. You have massive extortion going on, they cover it up. Now, I'm going to tell you on these PREAs, when that finally, at some time, this bubble's got to break, Bob. It's going to bust. And when it does, they will be heads rolled. And people need to know that if you know this stuff is going on, you would be wise to start documenting it. You'd be wise. Please send it to me, document, write it into them. I'd write a violation report every time I saw something, because I'd make certain that I am not going to be held accountable. And Bob, that's what they're doing. They're putting these bottom line people, telling them to do stuff, giving them 5 jobs that there's no way they can do. And then when something goes wrong, guess what? That's the people they fire. And so again, I'm going to tell y'all that it's gotten so bad in them prisons right now. I've never seen it. I'm talking to people who worked in there for years. They've never seen it. It's as bad as ever. And again, Bob, I don't know if I told you this. So I get calls on people. People call me and tell me what's going on. So one of the calls I get the other day, they're talking about how many write-ups, like this one write-up, they had 30 people on one write-up.
They're writing up the inmates.
Yeah, but they wrote all 30 of them, because here you got all 30 are involved in this. So they just write one whole column of okay, boom, here's all the people. Now they gave them separate write-ups, but what I'm saying, when they come back and reported it, what they reported was 30 people got this. and some of it will be tampering with devices. Okay. So you get 30 people tampering with devices. Then you turn around and you get another 20. Then you turn around and you get another 2 or 3 or 4. And again, that's what they're telling me is they're boom, boom, boom. Here's tamper with devices. Here's another one, 20 of them. Here's another one, 3 or 4, 4 or 5. I haven't seen them, so I don't know exactly how many. But at the end of the day, Bob, anybody that you don't have to be a fortune teller, you don't have to be a prophet. When you see a gang of people, 30 people committing the same offense, they're all working, that means they're coordinating. Bob, they're all doing the same things. When you see 30 people tampering with their electronic or lock devices, what's that tell you? I mean, tells me you're fixing to have a problem. It tells me you're going to have a lot of people out at the same time. And it tells me that people are coordinating that. It's not just a, so again, anybody with a common sense or knows anything about prisons knows you better get on top of it. Harpe, you better get on top of that. That's one of those incidents that looks like nothing, but anybody that knows prisons, 30 people doing the same thing, working on getting out, is not good.
Well, that stuff that's coming out on Allen Gamble is devastating.
Well, Bob, I don't know that it's true. I'm going to say this. I have reason to believe that I think what I've been told is 100% gospel. I have been told by multiple employees that the psychologist there, we're not going to use a name.
She's not a psychologist.
Bob, she's a psychologist. That's what I've been told by multiple people, okay? Multiple people. I could give you the person's name, okay? But whether she's a psychologist or not, I believe she is. She held a group of people hostage. Now, the other part of this had erratic behavior all week before this, weeks before this. So it's not just woke up one day and took people hostage. Erratic behavior, okay? Hostile behavior against employees, okay? Then she ends up getting a syringe and holding 3 staff members hostage. And that lasted for about 30 minutes, I think. Okay. I'm understanding they went down and searched her car and found guns. And I think her car was unlocked, found guns.
2 guns.
2 guns. Now, Bob, now let's think back a little bit because we had this on here the other day. We had a guy, correctional officer, carry a small pocket knife into the prison.
Yeah.
And they used to let us do that because we had to open boxes and get stuff. They used to let us have a small pocket knife. Nobody said anything about it. But here's the deal. If they put out a memo, no more small pocket knives, the guy's not right. I'm not defending the guy saying that having a pocket knife, I would have wrote a letter of concern and that'd been the end of it, But guess what they did with him?
They fired him. I think they filed charges on him.
They filed charges. They fired him and filed charges. Now, guess what they've done with this person that I think is a psychologist person? What did they do? What did they do with him, Bob?
Didn't do nothing. She come back to work.
No charges. Come back to work. How the heck? Okay, I'm almost ready to cuss, Bob. I'm gonna pull the reins back. I'm working on drinking coffee and cussing. I'm trying to quit. Slow it down a little, anyways. But here's the thing, Bob. How does that even happen? How do you have one person commit a criminal, massive criminal act, hostage, kidnapping? That's a major threatening with the needle, threatening with the syringe. Okay, you know what? That's threats. That's hostage taking, kidnapping. Okay, now she comes back to work. She got guns in the vehicle. You're going to go after a knife, and this lady's got guns in her vehicle. The only worst violator that I've ever seen Bob, would be Director Harpe, who carries guns into the facility with no action on it, shoots his own floor, no action on it, and leaves loaded shotguns in the back seat and lets inmates clean up, And again, how is it that you can have those things and this guy over here get filed charges and fired and filed charges?
We've got guys who who fired that they had guns in their car. They wasn't locked. They got terminated.
Yeah, I mean, how does that work? How
Well,
does
it's my
she have
understanding that
guns?
she scratched. I don't know if it's an officer or not, but I think she did. Got punched, scratched his eye, scratched him across the face. She has long fingernails, but I don't understand. They said, oh, the reason that happened was she had taken some medicine and it fogged her mind up and did different things. And that may be true. I mean, that may be actual. It may be a factual. But there's other things that goes along with that she has been. They've talked about her doing these different issues, and nothing was ever done.
Bob, if I go in and I take somebody hostage, if I walk out of the Capitol today, go to some store or go wherever, and I take hostages and I say, well, I took some medication and I didn't know what I was doing. You think they're going to let me go and say, oh, well, JJ didn't know what he was doing. He had some medicine and he just acted a little crazy that day. Okay, no problem. They're not going to do that. They're not going to, no way. And again, you held these people hostage. And if you are on such a hallucinogenic or any kind of medication that you had that negative reaction to, again, we'd have to see a lot of medical, you know what I mean? And let me ask you a question, Bob. Did they even file the charges? How did they know that? Do they have some doctor? How do we know that? Is that just what she said? I mean, do we, and Bob, worst part of this, worst part of it. What do you think's worst part, Bob? Give me your opinion. What you think's worst part?
Well, I think the worst part is not letting the people go.
I'll tell you what I think the worst part is that me and you we're like bird dogs, Bob. We're hound dogs on DOC. I mean, we're all over DOC. We're calling people all over the state. We're asking about this. How is it that they can cover this up? A hostage situation. You never hear it on the news. You never hear it. I mean, none of the employees, they got the employees so scared that everybody's going to keep a hostage situation quiet. Now, here's what's even funnier. I called down the road to some of the prisons down the road. Hey, what do y'all know? And these are people generally in the know. You know what I'm saying? What do you know about this hostage situation? Guess what?
Nothing.
We don't know what you're talking about, JJ. We have no idea what you're talking about. Well, golly, how in the world can DOC keep quiet a hostage situation with guns involved? You know what I mean? And yet you didn't even hear about it. So I got to give Stephen Harpe credit. He is a narcissist. He is a person that's got everybody scared to death. I'm getting more calls right now, Bob, than I ever have on stuff going on in there, and people are scared to death. You can't use my name. I've had twice today people call me up with problems in the department. You can't use my name.
Well, that government. It's pathetic that they're stealing money from inmates. Just a little dab of money they get, and they're stealing the money.
Well, Bob, what that means is they're broke. They're broke, and that's the sad. When you're so broke that you got to steal the inmates' gang pay, that's a sad day. I don't know that I've been involved in corrections for 35 years, I guess, a little over 35. I don't know that ever happened. I've never heard of that
Well,
happening.
JJ, why would they not notify people that they're doing it? Because it's uh, they're going to find out. It's not, find out about it. So why would they not tell it and give guys a heads up, the staff a heads up that this is going on?
Well, Bob, I mean, again, I don't think they want anybody to know. I think they're trying to keep everything up there a secret. I think they're trying to keep their budget a secret. I mean, look at the last contract that we had. Look at how shady all that was. I mean, they come in, they're going to do this. I mean, Bob, you just got to back up. They go out, Harpe, the governor, goes out. Oh, we're done with private. We've ended private prisons. We've closed 3 of them. We only had 2 to my knowledge, but they credited herself with 3. Maybe there's some I wasn't aware of. But they brag and brag and brag about how they done all this. And then they turn right around. Hey, I mean, the gate ain't even closed, and they're going to come in and say,
Privatize.
we're going to privatize, food. We're going to privatize canteen. We're going to privatize all these. We're going to get AI, and we're going to just let AI run the whole thing, And so, again, it's insane how they talk out of both sides of their mouth. But, Bob, on that food, they come in, and this other company has a contract, and they're going to say, oh, no, we're not. We're going to ignore that contract, and we're going to go out here and contract. Who does that? I mean, what kind of you have a contract. It's a solid agreed contract, and yet you're going to go over and break it and let nobody know, and then make another $70 million contract, and then OMS has to come in and go, hey, y'all can't do that. That's actually wrong, and you can't violate this contract. And now, guess what they've done, Bob? They've slipped over there and made a contract with the company who had the contract, and now they're all doing it back together. So they didn't miss a beat, Bob. And nobody, you talk people up here at this legislature, they don't know all that's going on. He's keeping it totally quiet. I mean, you talk about a backdealing, corrupt, in my opinion, corrupt on doing that kind of stuff, just like he bought that prison out there at Red Rock, which, Bob, I mean, I hear they're off to a good shaky start. They sent down, what was his name, Rogers from Harpe, that they sent down there. Now, I don't know. I got told that they've already moved. So I don't know whether it's talking about they had a warden and they moved this Rogers in, or that Rogers is there and that they're already getting rid of him and putting in somebody else. I'm not sure. I can't verify because I just keep hearing, well, they already changed their warden again, So I don't know which one of those it is. But, Bob, I mean, they've had numerous hospital runs, EMS runs. I heard they was out of toilet paper. You want to talk about emergency. They let yourself get out of toilet paper. It's something every time you pick up. I heard that they're definitely losing employees over there. So if they lose employees, Bob, it's going to be because they don't have you know what I'm saying? You can't pull nothing from Allen Gamble. You can't pull anything from Dick Connors. I got a call from, what was that? Jess Dunn the other day. We got one from Jess Dunn. In fact, we read that letter on here last week, if I remember right. Wasn't that last week? We read that letter, Bob, from Dunn, and they were talking about how they hadn't hired anybody and they didn't have anybody and they're having to work. Now they're going to pull somebody from those places and send down there. Wow. You know what I mean? We've got a massive problem. And so I'm hearing, Bob, I think did we have 2 or 3 deaths this week?
2 that I know of. For sure.
Well, I know that we had 3 or 4 assault on staff, and it looked like, man, this week on assault on staff, from what I'm hearing, I'm calling around and I'm getting told that we had 3 or 4 assaults on staff. And again, Bob, that's one of those things that I look at. So when I see you're having 30 inmates go over here and tamper with locks, you got 10 or 15 inmates not following orders, totally ignoring orders, and you got so many that you're writing them all in the same column. Well, guess what? If that's happening, and then you tack on all the other stuff that we're talking about with this, shortages of officers, ignoring all the problems. Because Bob, when they ignore problems, guess what's going to happen? You're just
What?
going to have more problems. It's like, I mean, you're training a dog. If you let that dog do something bad and you don't stop that dog, correct it, and guess what? That dog's going to just keep on doing what it's doing.
Yeah.
If you got kids, guess what? If you got a kid and you have no discipline in the house, then you're going to bring up a kid that's wild and don't care about nothing.
What do you expect when you put somebody in an office they never have done anything, that never did anything, never had anything to do with the prisons, had never been in a prison, and you put them over a director to be over the prisons when they have no experience?
Well, Bob, I would expect more than what this guy's done. First of all, if I had not had experience, I wouldn't go out and purchase uniforms like I was a 5-star general. That's just a stupid move. That was, I mean, that made him make himself bigger, and it just made himself smaller in the eyes of the officers, and was an insult to all the officers. Bob, I wouldn't go flying, jet setting around the country, trying to act like I am the guru of all, acting like I am so knowledgeable and I need to go over here and speak because I'm the head of the Department of Corrections in Oklahoma and I am the expert in the authority on this. No, I'd have enough sense to shut my mouth, sit in the back a little bit and learn something. I would put people around me that have massive experience. I would not bounce the deputy warden up over wardens because, Bob, let's just take that little move this week. So he bounced Bo Reynolds. I got no problem with Bo Reynolds. I will tell you that according to what I am told, Bo was responsible for the shower incidents that we turned in. We know the shower incident happened. They know the shower incidents happened. Everybody knows the shower incidents happen. That if you're working for DOC, we all know they ain't sit up there and lie. Harpe's biggest liar ever, but he knows and they know and Bo knows. And again, we have lawsuits and it'll all come out. But at the end of the day, you got the guy responsible for that. They move him over to Allen Gamble. Let me ask you something, Bob. What do you think is the worst run prison right now in Oklahoma?
Allen Gamble.
Okay, so we agree on that.
The number of deaths they had, I mean, they got to be riding up there between 25 and 30.
Covering up PREAs, number of deaths, assaults, covering up hostage situation. And Bob, that ain't the first hostage situation. They had a hostage situation where they had 2 employees, 2 correctional officers, injured, attacked, and the inmates wouldn't let them come down there and get them. Guess what? You never heard about that. I confirmed that was true. All of that. Again, and again, when I say confirmed, we're just getting employee reports. So that's how I am confirming, because DOC is a bunch of pukes and won't give you the proper information. And the reason they won't give it.
He wants to run DOC like it's a privately owned business, like his own business. He didn't have to follow any policies or any rules of the state. And
right.
How he gets away with it is just keep doing it, and it has no right to do it. It's not a private business; it's a public business, and the public has a right to know.
Well, Bob, even if you're going to run it like a private business, if you own 23 businesses, if you own 23 different companies doing roughly the same thing, so you got 23 plants doing the same thing. And you got a director over that plant. You got a director over this plant. You got 23 directors out there. You got an assistant director at the worst plant. So you got an assistant director at the very worst plant of all the plants. Is that who you're going to pick to put over all of these? Now you're going to put him over all of these, and you're going to bounce him over those, managers. So let's put it back here to what we're talking about. You got an assistant deputy warden. You got a deputy warden. You're going to bounce that deputy over all of those wardens. Now, you think that ain't going to create some bad blood out there in that you just bypassed all these wardens who's put in their time and done all the stuff, and guess what? You're going to bounce somebody straight over them. Again, that's bad enough, but then you're going to take the guy from the sorriest facility and you're going to bounce him up there. Tell me the logic behind that, Bob. Tell me what you're thinking when you do something like that.
Well, you don't have any logic with what happens there at DLC. It's just, there's no rhyme or reason why it's like it is. Why we're having so many people. JJ, I would be willing to bet you right now, I would bet you there are more than 50% down in employees.
Bob, I'd be shocked, and me and you've discussed this for 3 or 4 years, and but I would really right this level be shocked if it wasn't below 50. I would be shocked if they had 50. But you know what I'm saying? I really believe the shock would be that if they had 50%, the shock would be that they have that many people.
Now, Allen Gamble, let's just take a look at it. At one time, recently, they had 360 inmates and 1 officer.
Well, that'd be on one pod. They got 1,700 inmates, but on one pod they could have 300 possibly. That's assigned to 1 officer. So you got 1 to 360. And Bob, 1 to 120, 1 to 240. Can you imagine 1 to 240? What's one guy going to do with 240 inmates? You think one guy's going to keep an eye on 240 inmates?
Yeah.
So when you have that, what do you got, Bob? Who's running the show?
Inmates.
And that's what you
The
got.
inmates didn't do a good job. All their money got stolen.
Well, again, I mean, that's going to be from the top because they're broke and they're looking for money. It looks like, I mean, that's what it truly appears like, is that they don't have the money. And again, if they're that broke, Bob, it's going to, I mean, things will start showing. If you're that broke in August when you just got all your money in July, if you're having a hunt like that, then you got a real problem. And Bob, I mean, it looks to me like he's putting all his eggs in one basket. Looks like he's really going to push this AI stuff. Now, what would interest me is he really said, Bob, here's how I look at these directors and these people in this. Normally they're moving because they know, hey, I ain't going to be director forever. So they're trying to set themselves up for a gig when they leave, okay? And so again, I look at all his push towards AI. I see him probably leaving here and trying to go into that, into that field, trying to say, look, I was a director, and now let me come to your places and show you AI, and we're really being involved in AI. Him really getting involved in these companies. And again, if you're sticking all your eggs on AI, you know what I'm saying? We're way too early in AI to be, I'm not, and Bob, I like technology. I really do. People look at me and, oh, you're a cowboy and you wouldn't want technology. No, I'm all for moving forward. I had some difficulty with these phones and stuff. I wished I knew more, but I recognize AI. I think you're in the same boat, Bob. I mean, we talked about it. AI could be a great, great tool, but to just believe that we're going to magically put AI in a matter of months and that we need to do away with all of that's going to substitute for this 50, 60%.
Let's talk about that a little bit too. I'm hearing that they can't even do their counts.
Bob, I'm going to tell you, they ain't been doing count. I would almost guarantee you half these places ain't done count. And what really irks me, Bob, is to hear them tell some guy, we got to have you over here, but then you didn't count and we're going to fire you because you know what I mean? And when they know, just like down there at Lot, you had that guy stuffed. Now, this has been a year or two ago. So we're talking, it was this bad a year or two ago. You got a guy stuffed in a trash can with his head almost cut off. He's in there for 8 hours. Guess what? He's Bob. There's no way they
forget
could
about
count.
the guy that was dead when they did the count, and the inmates in there said, "Well, you might check on my cellie. I think he might be dead." And she continues with the count and goes back and tells the captain, "Well, the guy's dead over there."
Yeah, but Bob, here's what's funny. Look at the time. Just like what I'm saying, this guy found in a trash can 8 hours. They had to do count in between that. They weren't doing count. They ain't doing a good count, or they weren't doing count, because that guy been laying in that trash can 8 hours. I know y'all done 2 or 3 counts, and you cleared the count, and that guy couldn't have been there, so they got a problem. The guy you're talking about, Ross, that's inmate Ross. Guess what? They found him at 2. Rigor mortis set in. That means that the guy's been dead for several hours. Well, you had to feed him lunch. If you fed him lunch, you're supposed to hand him a tray.
Like that.
Guess what? What you got, Bob?
Oh, he's chewing on the wood.
Bob's got him a brand new dog, little puppy, and he's having to deal with him. Bob, you gonna have to put that dog in the cage while we're doing OCP.
Well, I thought he'd be. He has been just laying down here, but she gnawing on the electric cord, then gnawing on this, gnawing on that.
Bob, back on what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You can't find this guy at 2 and then say, hey, we gave him lunch. You're supposed to hand him a tray. He obviously didn't get up and get that tray. What about breakfast? It appears he'd been dead since breakfast. Now, Bob, I will tell you this. I had an inmate in here just the other day that told me that guy actually was beaten to death by employees. And so, again,
you're talking about Rob?
I'm getting multiple reports on that. But I don't know whether that's true or not true. But at the end of the day, I know that they didn't do proper counts. I know there's some questions to what's been reported, because I can look at the situation. I can look at the fact there's no way that y'all fed him and handed him his tray. Now, the other guy might have took the tray. But you ain't seen that guy move. And just all the stuff they reported, it just don't add up. It don't jive. And again, and that's what happens. Something happens, and then we go try to doctor that paperwork to try to make it, okay, we're going to make this scenario fit. We're going to write this all down. Only deal is, if you got anybody who can read in that and know, well, that don't make sense, because you had to feed him lunch and there's nothing. You had to feed him breakfast. You're going to tell me y'all done count and fed him and done all this, and you're going to say that you saw him? No, he'd been dead for hours. He'd been dead for 6-7 hours probably. And then you're going to sit there and tell me he bled. Again, he don't have external wounds. He has internal wounds. At some external, he's going to bleed, but he's not going to puddle blood. You know what I'm saying? They're saying, well, we found a puddle of blood in his bed. Doesn't make sense. All the stuff they reported does not make sense when you read it. And I can just lay it out just item by item that just says, this don't appear to add up. This don't appear to add up. And again, that's the kind of stuff that I'm telling you, they're going to have you say that. They're going to have you falsify all this because they're covering their butt. But guess what? When it happens, when it finally goes down, they're going to leave you hanging out to dry. And that's why the people listening to this, the COs, the employees that are listening to the reports that we're making, we're telling you it's falling apart. It's unraveling. It's swarming on them. It looks, Y'all need to start coming forward. You need to report this. And Bob, let me ask you a question. If you
Okay.
knew people were being raped, do you feel like you have a duty to report that? If they're covering it up and they're letting rape continue, do you feel like you have a duty to report?
Right. You do. Just like PREAs. You have a right. You need to report it.
Bob, that's where I'm at, and I want to talk to people about. Listen, I understand protecting your job. I understand that you got a family and you got bills and you got all that. I get all that, but there becomes a place. There ought to be some place for you that you have a moral responsibility that when you know people are being harmed in such a way, not just these kids being raped in there. And I mean, there's a bunch of kids being raped in there. We know that. Not just people being stabbed, murdered, but what about their families being extorted? I mean, my gosh, extortion on the level. What about these people that we know they're putting dope into their food, into their stuff, and they're killing them on purpose and they ain't even being worked? They're just, oh, well, he OD'd. Well, guess what? He OD'd because they gave him a deadly shot of fentanyl, a deadly dose. So, Bob,
Same with
that's where I'm
suicides.
at.
Yeah, they got suicides just running out their ears.
Bob, and again, where is anybody reporting on it? I mean, where is how many suicides do you have to have for somebody to go, well, no, that ain't normal. That ain't common. Now, why are we having such a high rate of suicide? You know, in a correctional setting, should you have that many deaths on dope? I mean, you got a correctional setting, Bob. You have a controlled environment, and you got. I mean, let's take OSP. 800 people, roughly 800 inmates, OSP. Okay, let's take the city of McAllister. Now, I don't know how many people live in the city of McAllister, but I assume it'd probably be up around 40,000 people or so. So you have 40,000 versus 800. Who do you think probably has a higher death rate? The 40,000 or the 800?
40,000.
You would think, Bob, I would love to go pull it up and just see. I'd love to go see, how many people in a year time died this 800 and out of 40,000. And what do you want to bet? I don't know they'll run them a close race, but I'm going to bet you that if you started doing percentages, it would be mind boggling for this 800. What percentage? I mean, they're dying like flies over here. They're just, I mean, people are dying with dope. People are getting stabbed. People are getting raped. And again, in a lockdown facility, how's that happen, Bob? How do you get shanks in there? It's just, you know what I'm saying? It's mind boggling. And then Harpe will sit up here and talk about, oh, we want a good, safe environment, rehabilitative environment. And we are doing all the good. And look at AI and talk about all the things except for what's actually going on in the prison. It's blowing. I just can't believe what's going on.
It's not getting any better, and each time we say, I don't think it can get any worse. But I think it's got that far where it's gotten worse.
Oh, it's gotten way worse, Bob. It's getting, and again, I'm gonna tell you something. I've got people who, we've been hollering, and that's, I think, Bob, that I told somebody last night. I think I've said it on here. I think we've done too good a job because people have become unsensitized, desensitized to what's going on. The media. I talked to a media person yesterday. I was in Glossop, the Glossop trial. And so again, I'm sitting there talking to some reporters, quite a few reporters there, talking to these reporters and just going, hey, and they're telling me, well, we've done reported on that. You done reported on that. People are, And it's kind of like it's Washington, D.C. You hear investigation after investigation. After a while, guess what? People don't want to hear about it. Are you going to do something? Now, they're finding evidence right now, and now people are like, okay, we're finally going to see something, and they're getting back excited about it, and it's getting back in the news. But that's where we are, Bob. People have seen this so much. We've done a good job of reporting it, and people are just going, okay, so another inmate got killed. Okay, so inmates got raped. Okay, a human rights violation. What are
Okay,
y'all going
Jay,
to do?
why do we have prisons?
Bob, it's first of all, protect the public. They used to have a great slogan, a motto. First of all, it's protect the public. Now, again, we have a really broken system. When you don't hear DOC should be so involved in trying to correct what's going on in our criminal justice system. Probation Pro's been hijacked by DAs, and DOC has sat back and kept their mouth shut because none of them know what's going on. That they have not a clue what's going on. That not a clue, Bob. They have no answers to how to fix that. So again, what we're seeing is in the community, people commit crime after crime after crime after crime after crime until they're sick of them or until they commit such a heinous crime. Now, when they go in, guess what? They're going in with a lot more time. They're staying a lot longer. You're seeing these youngsters getting medium security because of the time or charges that they got on them. And again, that's why you're seeing these prisons, why all this stuff hasn't worked, that we say, oh, we passed 780, that's going to lower it. No, it ain't lowered. Guess what? We have people staying longer and longer and longer, and that's why our prisons are still high as they are. And they're not doing anything, Bob. They don't even understand the conversation going on here. Harpe is clueless on what we're talking about. And he's done zero to try to change that narrative to stop people from coming, change criminal behavior before they get to prison. But once they get to prison, our responsibility to protect the public. Second, protect the employee. Guess what, Bob? That's why you're seeing them drop out. That's why you're seeing people leave. People are scared. Bob, we've talked about it. People who have grown up with their dad working for prison, you know what I'm saying? Their granddad worked for prison, their aunt, their uncle, all work for prison. It's a family tradition type. Guess what? The dads are saying, I mean, I personally know people that their entire family, and they're telling their youngsters, don't go off in there. Don't go to work for them. They're telling the ones that are working, hey, you're young enough now, quit, get out, go get something else. And Bob, that's when you see that ought to say, that should be scary for all of us.
Trying to rehabilitate them, not kill them.
Well, yeah, Bob, and the last thing, so protect the employee, we protect the public, protect the employee, and guess what? We protect the inmate. We protect the inmate. And again, we should be trying to change criminal behavior. We should try to change it. We should try to stop them from coming to prison. We should have working in that community ways to avoid going to prison. And then we should work when we get them in prison to train them. And again, we know that if we train them in a livable wage job, 66% of those people will not come back. Why are we not training them? And Bob, they've dropped all of the rehab programs. All of, they may have a few technology programs, but Bob, we're not seeing those. Now, the ones you do see, we've talked about on here a couple of times, our good friend that's a hairdresser. Look how successful that is. Why are we not modeling programs like that throughout the entire department? Why do we not have most of the inmate population in programs like that? And I can tell you, because they don't have the manpower and because they're broke. And I will tell you, this little prison going in Watonga, Bob, they're going to listen to me and they're going to say, oh, JJ don't know what he's talking about. But I'm going to tell you, Watonga's not that far of a drive from Oklahoma City. So if I'm working at Hinton or I'm working at one of these places that I'm talking about, I can make $5 more an hour and go to a place that you don't have all the, where I'm not one person sitting with 300 inmates, guess what? I'm going to Watonga. I'll drive out to Watonga, you know.
Well,
So,
it's extremely. They put it. They just messed. It's just messed it up. And it's just so disgusting that I'm anxious to hear their side of why they cheated the inmates out of their money that they have worked for. What would it be?
well, I'm interested to see what they're going to say on this hostage situation when it gets out in public. I'm interested to see why they ain't filing charges, and I'm interested in some of the people who were kidnapped. I mean, hey, y'all need to go down to the DA's office and say, hey, why were charges not filed on this? And I can tell you why they weren't filed, Bob, because they weren't turned in.
Yeah.
And why is DOC allowing hostage situations to go in and never turn in a criminal charge? Where's their OIG? They have an entire investigation unit. And you gonna tell me they can't file a charge? They don't know. Y'all
got
call
1 minute, JJ.
Well, Bob, I'm just saying, wow, how in the world? You know, I mean, you got 60 something OIG investigators, and you can't turn in a that charge. I mean, that's maybe one of the most horrendous charges you got, and you're not going to turn it in when you kidnapping and finding guns, but yet you'll go work a case on a pocket knife. I mean, I'm interested here. Why are we broke? Why are we stealing money from inmates? Why are we stealing from their trust funds? Why are we covering up PREAs? Why are we covering up hostage situations? All of that. They need to answer everything. And again, I throw the governor right in the mix to this because there's no way. I used to try to take up for him, but guess what? He's tied himself to Harpe. Harpe is the biggest disaster ever for corrections, and he's joined at the hip with Kevin Stitt. So,
JJ, I appreciate you being on with us today, and
you bet.
See you back here next week. And I hope you're not at the same place. But
no, I won't be. I won't be. Rarely am I up here on this. And again, I can't speak freely when I'm